joining us this evening. I am Councilmember Emmanuel Remy, and the purpose of this hearing is to hear from and learn about the 15 finalists for the Council Residential Districting Commission, also referred to as the CRDC. I want to remind everyone that this hearing is currently live on YouTube and Facebook, and is also live and being recorded for rebroadcast on CTV, Columbus's government television channel 3. The rebroadcast schedule is available at www.columbus.gov. Excuse me, I want to recognize and thank my other council colleagues for joining us this evening. Councilmember Tyson, Councilmember Brown, Mitch Brown, Councilmember Dorans, and then President Pro Tem Elizabeth Brown. I see she's made it too. Welcome. It's nice to have everybody here this evening. In 2018, Columbus residents passed a charter amendment to enhance neighborhood advocacy and amplify community voices inside City Hall. The amendment increased the total number of Columbus City Council members from 7 members to 9 members starting in January of 2024. The amendment also creates 9 council districts, with each council member required to reside in one of the 9 districts. To be clear, this means 1 member per district. The Council Residential Districting Commission is a commission formed to assist in the districting process. In accordance with the charter requirements, the CRDC will consist of 5 members. 4 will be appointed by council. The mayor and council president will select the final member, who will also serve as commission chair. The commission members will host 9 meetings in 9 different areas of the city of Columbus and draw 3 maps that will divide the city into the 9 districts. The maps will then be submitted to council for a vote. Council cannot make any changes to the maps. Once council affirms one of the 3 maps, the commission is to be immediately dissolved per the charter. Applications for the commission opened December 15, 2020 and closed January 21st, 2020. After receiving 123 applications to serve on the Council Residential Districting Commission, Columbus City Council has selected 15 finalists for further consideration. The finalists are Herb Asher, Napoleon Bell, Jeff Cabot, Monica Cerrezuela, Pat Deering, Averi Frost, Terrence Gilchrist, Sarah Ingles, Brandyn McElroy, Jibril Mohamed, Malik Moore, Eileen Neal, Dave Paul, J.M. Rayburn, and Chris Weish. Each finalist will be given the opportunity to provide a 3-minute synopsis on why they wish to be appointed to the commission. We will not be accepting speaker slips this evening, but will instead focus on the content shared by each of the 15 finalists. Before I get into the meat of this, I just want to open the floor to my council colleagues, see if they have any comments they'd like to make at this time. See, no. All right. Then I will go ahead and get started. We did. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Remy. I just want to thank everyone for putting their name out to be able to serve on this commission. Certainly, individuals have many things they could be doing, taking care of their families, and they work and have other responsibilities. But I really appreciate them continuing to show how much they care about this community by stepping up and asking for another opportunity to serve. So thanks everyone for being here.
Absolutely. Echo those comments sincerely. It's definitely nice to have so many candidates to look at, and certainly the 15 finalists appear to be a stellar group. President Pro Tem Brown.
Thank you, Councilmember Remy. I'll be very brief. I just want to echo the thanks that my colleagues have expressed, and particularly for endeavors like this that are a little bit wonky, right, and can seem kind of boring and in the weeds. Things like districting, these are foundational to how democracy runs. Getting the boring stuff right is how we're able to be comfortable with the democracy we have, and then to make good public policy from there. So I appreciate the effort that all of you who are here are putting in, but also Councilmember Remy, the effort you're putting in to get the foundation right, get the wonky stuff right. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been a big team effort and certainly a lot of hands that have helped. So that's great. Councilmember Brown, Mitch Brown. I thought I saw your hand up. Sorry.
No, I mean, again, I think Priscilla spoke on behalf of all of us and from council to say thank you to everybody who's participating. And again, civic duty is appreciated. So thank you very much. And thanks, Priscilla, for acknowledging that to everybody who's present.
Got it. All right, Councilmember Dorrance. Can't leave you out.
Well, thanks, Chair Remy, for convening the hearing. I think this is an excellent way to allow these folks to talk about why they would be able to serve the members or the residents of Columbus well. Just thanks to the body, as my colleagues have already said. But it's really cool to look at everyone on one page right now. And this is a pretty great representation of the diversity that is Columbus, whether it's age, race, gender, profession. And I think that's really important as we think about what these districts are going to do for our city to provide the kind of representation across Columbus. And I know I speak for my colleagues and everyone here when we say one of the things we're proudest of this city is the diversity that we have here of all those different stripes. And it's really great to look at this, the folks who have stepped forward to serve their community in this way, and just appreciate having those different perspectives on a daily basis, whatever council is dealing with, but on something that is fundamental to how this body is structured. So again, just to thank you to everyone for stepping forward and serving, and looking forward to hearing from you all this evening.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Dorrance. All right, let's get started. We did receive notice from one of the finalists that they are currently enrolled as a law student, and he has a class that overlaps with the hearing this evening. Because of this, we will start off with Patrick Deering, and then I will call on the remaining finalists in alphabetical order. Patrick, we are gonna, and for everyone involved, we've asked you to kind of limit your remarks to 3 minutes, but I did pull the buzzer on this one, so it'll be kind of on the honor system, and I will, if I have to step in and pull the cane out, I will, but certainly we'll ask that you try to remain as close to 3 minutes as possible. So Patrick, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Councilman, and thank you so much for having me this evening. I'm honored to be considered a finalist for this position. Just a few quick things about me for people who haven't met me. Again, Pat Deering. I've been here in Columbus for about a decade now, and I live over on the east side where I represent Columbus Ward 55 to the Franklin County Democratic Party via the Central Committee. I am interested in serving on this commission and running for this commission for really 3 different things that I'm very passionate about. And those 3 things are undoing the legacy of redlining that still exists across Central Ohio, avoiding local gerrymandering and not repeating the same mistakes that we have at the state level and at the national level with similar boundaries, and for a personal passion point of mine, really doing everything possible to address Columbus's transit woes. And so I've brought 3 things to the application around those, and I'll just run through them real quick. Columbus has had, unfortunately, a history of redlining, just like any other city has. And in this endeavor, I think this is an opportunity for us to undo a bit of that and avoid perpetuating that history by doing everything possible to avoid any of those boundaries that have previously existed in creating these district maps. We do definitely want to avoid utilizing lines that are based on highway construction or other infrastructure development that were based on those in the first place. Second, in regards to local gerrymandering, I want to endeavor to preserve the status of neighborhoods, the identity of neighborhoods based on their historic, traditional, cultural, ethnic, and racial boundaries, and not default to utilizing some of our more modern neighborhood lines that have been created for ease of development, area commissions, marketing, things of that nature. To give some practical examples, I don't want this commission to make the mistake of diluting neighborhoods like Franklinton or Linden, who are already underserved and are already underinvested in by breaking them up through this process, because many neighborhoods in Columbus, we've unfortunately already broken up through our area commission lines. Another example, personal to me, the Near East Side, I believe that's an area that should be kept together by its historic boundaries and not subdivided by its modern neighborhoods of OTE, King Lincoln, Franklin, Nelson, Mount Vernon, further diluting the neighborhood identity. And then I do also believe that what counts as our transit map here in Columbus should influence our district border decisions. We should avoid separating neighborhoods that have our highest ridership numbers and greatest reliance on public transit. And that's for everything, not just for commuting, which further reduces the ability of these neighborhoods to influence decisions that impact their ability to get around Columbus. And transit is one of Columbus's greatest opportunities for improvement. It's one of the areas that we lack in the most. And that plays a critical role in everything from community and individual health, housing, employment, nutrition, quality of life, happiness. Literally, transit, without hyperbole, impacts everything. And that is why, it might not seem intuitive to think about transit primarily in districting like this. That's why it is something for me that is going to be there at the forefront. And as you mentioned at the beginning, I am a 4L evening student at Cabot University Law School, and I do hope to bring my perspective as a student of law, not necessarily a lawyer. You concerned with statute, things of that nature, but the legal history to the table as well. And those are my prepared remarks. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Pat. Appreciate the opportunity. Do any of my colleagues have any questions for Mr. Daring this evening? Glance around a little bit. All right, I do have one question. If you're not selected as one of the commissioners, will you still commit to be engaged in the council districting process and encourage others to engage as well?
Absolutely. I know that this is an issue that has been part of Columbus politics for some time, and the solution that we reached was not one that made everybody happy, but I do consider myself to be a bridge builder on issues like this, and I do believe that I'm someone who can help with finding common ground across all aspects of Columbus's citizenry, and finding areas that we do have things in common and areas that we can agree on, and find whatever room for improvement that we do have. And if that is simply being an advocate for the process to people who don't understand it or maybe still a little bit hesitant about it, I'm more than happy to do so.
Thank you. Any other questions before we move on? Well, thank you very much, Mr. Daring. We appreciate the opportunity to hear from you this evening, and thank you for being involved with the process. Good luck tonight in class, and hopefully the commute virtually isn't too bad.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a great evening. Our next speaker, Mr. Asher is having some difficulties with the software, so we're going to go ahead and move straight to Napoleon Bell.
All right. Thank you so much, Chair Remy, and Council Members Tyson, Brown, President Pro Tem Brown, and Councilmember Dorrance, for the opportunity to speak regarding why I want to serve Council Residential Districting Commission. I've lived in Columbus all my life and have witnessed the dramatic changes over the last 5 decades, from Northland Mall being an outside mall to Eastland Mall being built and the city center as it came and also went. Why I want to serve. I feel service to the community is in my blood. I think about the conversations that I had with my mother and father, who told me stories about the difficulty in buying a house when you have the cash in hand, but due to redlining and discrimination, they were unable to do this. This pushing my father to start his own mortgage company, Beneficial Acceptance Corporation, to provide home loans to African Americans. Myself, having served 27 years in public service, many of them in law enforcement and as a patrol officer and community liaison, working with residents from all over Columbus. We broke bread together, we celebrated their successes, and also sat at the table listening to the issues. I served because of people like Bobby McVicker, an older lady of the North Harding Road Block Watch, who worked tirelessly in the community, saying she would never give up on her neighbors. She later passed, and then unfortunately attending her funeral would not be the last. I was the advocate for the community, and they were my family, hoping to inspire them to see anything as possible when we worked together for positive change. Few thought, though, it was impossible to bring together all of the block watches, civic associations, and community groups from the East Side. But we formed a collaborative with a unified voice. It was the Mideast Area Community Collaborative. Positive change happens because we worked together. You know, I reflect on my time as I served as a director of the Columbus Community Relations Commission, advocating and enforcing the Civil Rights Code to stand up with residents who are being discriminated against in housing, employment, and public accommodations. It was there where we worked together with refugee and immigrant populations, ESL residents, and housing integration and resources around the city. We embraced the collective vision of our ever-growing and changing city to meet the needs of our very diverse neighborhoods. Why I want to serve? I understand and embrace the importance of the community's needs for advocacy within these chambers. Someone that they can count on to listen to their issues and to be their advocate. I understand the critical importance that these are not just lines we are drawing on a map. They are lines within communities, lines of equity and representation and advocacy, lines that residents will live with for many years to come. The Council Residential Redistricting Commission has an awesome responsibility ahead of them, and I feel my history of passion, community advocacy, and engagement of all neighborhoods in Columbus would be an asset to the commission. Why I want to serve? My life's purpose and passion has been advocating for and hopefully inspiring residents of Central Ohio to be engaged with each other and city government. I feel a clear understanding of the past helps us build a just and equitable future. For these reasons and more is why I want to serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Napoleon. Appreciate the testimony this evening. Do any of my colleagues have any questions? All right. Well, I'm just gonna be asking the same question over and over again, I guess. But if you weren't selected, Napoleon, as a commissioner, would you still commit to be engaged in the council districting process and encourage others to engage as well?
Oh yes, yes. When I first heard about how many people who had signed up for it, that really gave me great encouragement, because of the fact that people are encouraged to be a part of it, to get engaged, with the city, but also get engaged with their community members. So most definitely, I would be engaged in this endeavor of the districting lines.
Definitely appreciate it. Thank you again for putting your name in the hat and certainly coming out tonight to speak further about why we should select you. So appreciate it, and move on. Our next speaker will be Mr. Jeff Cabot. Yeah, I got you on mute still. I don't think I have any powers to do that. Take care of that. There we go. I think you're on.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, members of council, for this opportunity. As President Pro Tem Brown said, this is kind of in the weeds and nerd work. I guess I've been an election nerd for a long time. The first evidence of it is a picture I have from 1950, where my father, my brother, and I are walking in a parade in Coshocton, Ohio, with sandwich boards on saying, "Make sure to vote November 7th. And mine says, "I will vote in 1968, which I did, and I voted in every election since then. And I'm now a retired bureaucrat. I've worked in state, city, and county government in Central Ohio for a long time. Worked as a city council aide for 5 years for Councilwoman Dorothy Teeter way back when. Also have served as an elected member of the Franklin County Republican Central Committee, the Columbus School Board, and was a Republican nominee for the member of the legislature once long, long ago. I think what I would bring to it is bipartisanship. I know there aren't many Republicans in Columbus left these days, but that's a perspective that needs to be heard and represented, and I would hope to do that. I also served as the treasurer of the Fair Congressional Districts for Ohio campaign a couple of years ago. So I have worked on redistricting and fair line drawings at the state level as well. I served on the Franklin County Consortium for Good Government with Dave Paul when we had candidates nights and continue to have candidates nights throughout the community. So, and I was the executive director of Kids Voting of Central Ohio. One of the main programs of that operation was the Youth at the Booth program, which your council president was an early participant in and advocate of. So I'm happy to do this. Look forward to the opportunity. I think it's important work, and I would be pleased to participate in it. And if you don't select me, I will still participate however I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cabot. Do any of my colleagues have anything they'd like to say this evening? Right. I don't need to ask the question. You already pre-answered it. So, hey, very efficient. We'll move right along. Thank you again, Mr. Cabot. We appreciate your involvement and stepping up to put your name in the hat, and certainly look forward to deliberating ahead. So have a great evening. Next, we have Monica Cerrezuela. Monica, good evening.
Good evening, Councilmember Remy. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, good evening again, everyone, council members. My name is Monica Cerrezuela, and again, I'm honored to be before you tonight as a finalist for the Council Residential Districting Commission. I'm going to start by sharing a little bit more about my story and a little bit more about me. I was born and raised in Canton, Ohio, and moved here to Columbus in 2013 after graduating college to kickstart my career in public service. Being from Northeast Ohio, I moved to Columbus without a network. I didn't really know anyone when I moved here. So I've spent the last 7+ years working in various roles in the public sector and nonprofit community, really making a name for myself and building a reputation from the ground up. Those who have interacted with me on a professional and personal level know that I have more of a reserved demeanor, but I'm not afraid to speak up, especially around the issues of equity and uplifting underrepresented voices. I spend a lot of time listening. I'm rarely often the loudest person in a meeting or most outspoken, but I'm also known for my grit. I'm always willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. And all of these traits I really attribute to the fact that I am the daughter of an immigrant. And for so many in Columbus, I know that those sentiments really resonate with them. And that's why I'm here tonight, because while our city is beautifully diverse, we know that there are communities and neighborhoods that feel forgotten. They feel that no one's listening. They feel that no one is fighting for them. And therefore, they have lost trust in this system. You know, I identify as Latina and do a lot of work to try to mobilize the Latino community when it comes to elections and voting. And I can say that there is a disconnect between how one person's vote translates into change. And so it underlines the critical nature of the work of this commission and how important it is that we get this right. So, you know, I want to be part of the commission for these reasons, and will bring, I guess, 3 values to mind as I think about this work. One is around the idea of maintaining communities of interest. We know that data is a critical piece to that, but we also know that this is about people. We need to gather the stories, the comments, the feedback from residents to truly make this a success. And so that's why accessibility is also a very important part of this work. We need to make sure that we are breaking down barriers for people to participate in this process. So, you know, if I'm part of this commission, I will be advocating for ensuring that we have sign language interpreters. We're having these meetings recorded and uploaded and publicly available. We have closed captioning and ensuring that there's translators available for, you know, meetings that are taking place in neighborhoods where there are large demographics of new Americans. The last piece of this is around transparency, because the success of this commission depends on the process that has to be built by public trust. And what we cannot happen is feeling that, residents, are giving us input and they feel that these maps have already been drawn, in some backroom deal. And so, really want to make sure that we have the public's trust and buy-in throughout this entire process. And so I conclude tonight, by just saying that I love this city, and I believe that my perspective, my story, my legislative and policy-oriented background, and just my overall eagerness to help alter the perception of what representation means to this city makes me a great candidate to be part of this work. And so with that, I will, say thank you and can answer any questions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time tonight to speak in front of us. Any of my colleagues, questions? There's a trend going on here. I will ask the same question I've asked everyone, and that is, would you still remain involved and be an advocate if you weren't selected?
Absolutely. And again, as someone who is Latina, I think it's absolutely critical to try to get more Latinos involved because historically, we have never had a Latino or Latina sit on Columbus City Council. So I see this as a real opportunity for them to be engaged and involved in this process.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming out, and thank you for putting your name in the hat. I know it's not easy sometimes to do that, and plenty of, like Councilmember Tyson said, there's lots of things you could be doing otherwise, but appreciate the advocacy. So moving on, we have Miss Averi Frost. Appreciate you coming in tonight, and certainly look forward to your testimony.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Remy, and all of City Council for this opportunity to speak tonight and to possibly serve on this commission. As Councilmember Remy said, my name is J. Averi Frost. I'm a Columbus native, born and raised here in Columbus. My family has actually been here for a number of generations, actually. On the east side, all of us, I think, on the east side of Columbus. I'm a proud grad of Eastmore Academy. I went through the whole East Side Columbus City Schools track, Old Orchard Elementary, Johnson Park Middle, and proud graduate of Eastmore Academy. And I currently serve as the executive director for the Central Ohio African American Chamber of Commerce, and also am the program manager for the Columbus Urban League Minority Small Business Resiliency Initiative. And so many of you know me in my business capacity, I suppose. I spend almost all of my professional and personal time working with and for small and most often minority-owned businesses here in Columbus. And so with that, it has given me some perspective, and I'm talking to different business owners and community members like myself about what's important, and when we're talking about representation. And we've seen for everyone, you could be here for half a second and know that Columbus is a city that's very much in transition. We've heard it a couple times from other finalists. The city has changed quite a bit, and in a lot of ways, in a good way. There's been plenty of development. There's been wealth creation. There's been a crazy population growth. When you really look at when I was young, people would call us a cow town. And we're evolving from there, but with that comes some challenges. And so for some folks, it might feel like, especially if you're from here, like born here, it might feel like you're being left behind or left out. And so, as an actively engaged resident, just again, speaking to people, and then as I was thinking about my application for this process, it became just like overly clear, especially in the environment that we just left, I guess we'll say, that, people really want to see elected officials and the system have people that can empathize with where they're coming from. And so that's both experientially and physically. We do know that each neighborhood of Columbus is pretty different. You won't have the same, you will have the same experiences because Columbus is great, obviously, but each part of town is very different. What's happening at James and Livingston is different than what may be happening on the Hilltop, or what's happening on Tamarack Circle, or down in Southern Orchards. And so I think that, I know that we all would agree. I don't think any of us would be sitting here if we didn't agree that representation matters. And as one of the last major cities to go on district or ward representation model, this is a really, really important step. And that's why I decided to apply for this. I think that having these districts will serve to amplify the voices of people who may be underrepresented or who have felt underrepresented. I think it'll re-encourage people to get involved in the civic process. I think that we need to hear from specific parts of town to know what's happening on the ground so that we can develop solutions that's going to be targeted and that will really have the best impact for all of Columbus residents. So I'm really excited about this important step and know that it is only one step in many that needs to occur to increase our civic engagement. We do know that there's going to be other work to be done, but this is a very crucial step. And I don't take this assignment lightly. I wouldn't have put my hat in the ring. If you know me, and I do know some of you, I wouldn't just apply for something just to do it. I have plenty of other things to do, and not like any sort of like cocky kind of way, but literally we're all doing 100 things. And so I would not have put my application in if I didn't believe that this was a worthwhile and vitally important part of creating equitable progress in the city. And so I look forward to contributing as a commission member or as a private citizen, if I'm not chosen, to really to make sure that this is something that's successful. And I look forward to any questions that you may have. And thank you again for this opportunity and your time today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Frost. We appreciate you coming down this evening. Colleagues, anything from you? Everybody seems to be just tuning in and listening intently. So thank you so much for taking the time tonight. We appreciate your involvement and certainly speaking out tonight about why we should choose you. So appreciate it. And you answered my question, so we can move on. So thank you.
Thank you.
I just muted myself before I went to my script. Next, I have Terrence Gilchrist up. Mr. Gilchrist, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, council members. Let me say how honored I am to be considered a finalist among these esteemed people. Public service has been a lifelong vocation. The commission is a meaningful way to contribute my expertise and skills, along with the personnel and resources of the City of Columbus, to create a structure that makes governance of the city more responsive and sensitive to matters affecting various communities in different neighborhoods. With regard to expertise and skills, there are 3 parts of my experience that align well with the purpose of the commission. 1, I have experience with citywide initiatives. For instance, I was a volunteer member of the City of Columbus Green Team as part of the Built Environment and Transportation Infrastructure Work Group. In Newark, New Jersey, as part of my duties with the Office of Mayor Corey A. Booker, for Census 2010, I was a senior leadership member of City Hall's Complete Count Committee. Later, I was also a research associate and facilitator of Community Fora and Partnership for Education in Newark. With these latter 2 experiences, there was the use of data as well as engagement with the community and collective conversations about the endeavors. 2, I have expertise with maps and spatial data that can help in the creation of the 9 residential districts. While finishing my master's degree in public administration, I was a faculty research assistant in a project investigating residential segregation by examining the clustering of racial groups in 22 metropolitan areas. We used spatial autocorrelation analysis upon each census block and compared the difference between the years 1990 and 2000. I used some of these skills with Census 2010 by examining maps of hard-to-count census tracts from which to canvass apartment buildings. I have also taken a graduate course in advanced GIS and spatial analysis, where we used the spatial software QGIS as well as a statistical software called R. 3, I have this perspective of having served in municipal and state government, as well as having been a community advocate. I served as an appointed advisor and analyst with the policy team of Mayor Booker, City of Newark, New Jersey, and as an appointed senior analyst and special assistant in state stat within the Office of Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley. In municipal government, I directly observed how district representation can benefit a community. In Newark, New Jersey, there are 4 at-large council members and 5 ward council members. From the perspective of the mayor's office, our projects were aided from the attention of the ward council members and their staff, along with their attendance at meetings. Those council members had relationships in the community that provided legitimacy to our endeavors. Later, as a community advocate myself with an environmental justice matter here in Columbus, I observed how a personal connection with the neighborhood was an extra element in the motivation for the council member to give attention. The environmental justice matter involved Saunders Park on the historic Near East Side. There are several council members who are directly familiar with the neighborhood. When problem-solving issues in a community, a personal connection to the issue or community helps people become open-minded. I am familiar with nearly every neighborhood in Columbus. I accrued this familiarity while a substitute teacher in the Columbus City Schools, where I taught at many of the schools, which took me to neighborhoods all over the city. I was also an enumerator with Census 2000 and saw up-close differences across households and neighborhoods. Columbus is my hometown, where I was born and raised, where my family has lived for over 125 years, and I am more than delighted to contribute what I have learned, whether it be selected as a commissioner or as someone participating in the workshops and community sessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gilchrist. Anything from my colleagues? All right. Certainly appreciate you coming in this evening, and it sounds like you're willing to step up if not selected. So appreciate that based on that comment. And if there are no other questions, just thank you for coming in and stepping up to be part of the hearing this evening, and congratulations on being a finalist.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Miss Sarah Ingles. Thank you for coming down, and appreciate your testimony this evening.
Thank you. President Pro Tem Brown, Chair Ramey, members of council, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Sarah Ingles, and I am a lifelong resident of Central Ohio. I'm a bilingual labor attorney at the law firm of Bark and Meislish LLP, where I represent unions and workers throughout our community. I also serve as the board president of the Central Ohio Worker Center, an organization that educates, empowers, and advocates for and with low-wage and immigrant workers here in Central Ohio. In addition, I serve on an advisory committee at the Ethiopian Tewahedo Social Services, a nonprofit that helps refugees and immigrants from all countries establish roots and gain self-sufficiency here in Columbus. Through these experiences, I've built relationships and conducted outreach in communities where immigrants, low-wage workers, and workers of color both live and work. And I feel a sincere calling to assist and uplift these workers and the voices of the people that I work with on a daily basis. And I believe that that's important for this commission. In addition, I've worked to make my own work more inclusive and accessible for all folks who want to engage and to help folks learn more. And I believe that I could bring that experience to this commission. Beyond the highlighted volunteer activities that I've just said, I attend and participate in community events, community forums, and electoral work. I think that it's important to have somebody who really cares about elections and cares about making sure that everyone's voice is heard, and how that specifically plays out here in this community. In the 2020 presidential election, I served as the voting location manager for Brentonell Recreation Center, which has been a great opportunity to really get to know that part of the community, one in which I do not live. In addition, I've really worked hard on various election law matters. I've canvassed boots to the ground in various neighborhoods here in Columbus. I've worked on voter rights and voter education matters. And one of these experiences included my time as a law clerk at the ACLU of Ohio, where I provided research and support to the litigation team that recently challenged Ohio's gerrymandered state districts. I've looked at many district maps and analyzed them, and I could provide some context and experience to the commission while it undertakes its duties. I applied to serve on the Council Redistricting Commission, or the Council Residential Districting Commission, because I believe that fair maps are one of the most important things in local elections. If we want a free and fair election, one that is not only equitable, but that is just, we must ensure that all people in our community have a fair opportunity to participate by creating and implementing a map that is representative of our community and its vibrant and distinct districts. As a lawyer, I believe that I could help steward that conversation by interpreting and guiding our commission to ensure that our districts are legally compliant and that they are fair representations of our community. In addition, I have strong communication skills, negotiation skills, and thrive in a team setting. Our entire community deserves fair representation, and that includes the populations most underserved. And I believe I'd be able to draw upon my work with various immigrant communities and workers from all over the city and serve as a voice for these individuals on the commission and in the community. It's truly an honor to be selected as a finalist among a pool of dedicated and diverse community members and leaders. So thank you so much for the opportunity to come here before you and make this pitch. And I welcome any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ingles. Appreciate your testimony this evening. Any comments from my colleagues this evening? All right. Appreciate you coming down. If you were not to be selected, would you still stay engaged and be an advocate for the process?
Of course. Like I said, I really believe in fair maps and fair districts and having people understand the process. It's not just showing up to vote. That's the only thing that matters. I mean, engaging all the way through. And this is a big deal. Drawing maps is a really big deal. So it's important that all of our community, one, knows that it's going on, and two, knows how to engage in the process. And I would be thrilled to help that and steward that through as well.
Thank you so much. Appreciated it. And thanks for stepping up. It's a great honor to have you here this evening. So thank you. Next, we have Mr. Brandyn McElroy. Good evening, Brandyn.
Good evening, Councilmember. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Can't complain.
Good to see you.
I thank the council for the opportunity to speak this evening. I want to thank all the members of council for taking the time to look at the 123 applicants. Like many of those that are applicants that have spoke tonight stated, it's a pleasure to see so many get involved and engaged in this process. A little bit about myself. I am I used to be able to say lifelong resident. I moved away for about 3 years for work, but other than that, lifelong resident at heart, if nothing else, of the city of Columbus. The one thing that I like to say that I bring uniquely to this is I've had the opportunity to live in a lot of neighborhoods within the city. I grew up on the northeast side of Columbus, right off of Argyle and Brittenell, in a community that very much was underserved and still is today in many respects. I also grew up on the south side of the city, the far south side of the city, as we like to call it, because that can sometimes be confused. And in areas on the west side in the Hilltop area, I went to church. I bought a house on the southwest side of the city of Columbus before moving out of the state. And returning home to Columbus, I've been living on the far south side and I'm building a house currently on the southeast side of the city. So I like to say that I bring a unique perspective in that I've worked with a lot of the individuals, even on this call this evening, in various aspects throughout my history. Starting out at 16, I was engaged in the original formation of the Far South Columbus Area Commission and had the opportunity to participate in that process as a high schooler and really trying to engage and understand what does it mean to be a representative of a city, what does it mean to represent a neighborhood and a community. And that only grew from there. I've had the opportunity to serve on the University Area Commission, the Greater Hilltop Area Commission, the Far South Columbus Area Commission, and I've also served as president of the Wyland Park Community Civic Association, vice president and member within the Scioto Southland Civic Association, and the list goes on. I've also been engaged with the Columbus Nonviolent Commission and had the opportunity to serve as chair at one point in time when that commission was running, and will tell you now, I'd be happy to start it back up to really get that work going again. But I say all that to say that I've always been a representative of those that sometimes feel less heard. And what that means for this work specifically is understanding the boundaries that really make up our beautiful city, the boundaries that make up our beautiful neighborhoods and our communities. And it's not just about area commission lines. It's not just about civic association lines. It's about each and every individual neighborhood and sometimes individual streets that have pride and who they are and what they bring to this city and this community. I think of my neighbors that I used to have in Wyland Park and how they would truly stretch out and say, hey, we have the best little block that's available in this city because we have so many diverse neighbors around, from Section 8 all the way up to some of the CEOs, as well as high-ranking members within national organizations that live in one small area. And those types of things are very important when it comes to drawing lines. And it's not just as simple as lines, as many of the applicants have already stated. And I truly have a passion in understanding that. For me, it's always about making sure that we understand the communities that are going to be served by the squares and ovals and things that are going to be drawn, and truly understand how keeping certain things together, but also joining neighborhoods that maybe haven't been together or have been divided out, is going to be crucial and critical to moving things forward. When I think of representation, I think about the times that I've myself offered myself up for Columbus City Council consideration to be a council member in my younger days, as I would like to say today, and saying, you know, I want to represent this city from a different perspective. But I look at how far we've come even from those days to today, and how great it will be to see these neighborhoods coming together rather than being divided apart. Coming together rather than looking at, okay, how many council members live on this side of the city versus this side of the city, but instead to know that everyone that's selected to be a part of this commission will have an opportunity to truly pull neighborhoods together, pull community members together, especially in a time where our country as a whole, our state even, and truly our city and communities can be so divided. We have a great opportunity here, and I think it is critically important to get it right, and to take the time. I think service matters as far as how much you've been involved and engaged within the communities on the late nights. As Councilman Remy, I know you and I have worked tirelessly on a lot of projects back in the day, if you will, and how that really matters to our residents and to our neighbors, and how their representation from City Council, sitting down with them and understanding what they're saying, truly matters. So I hope that I would be considered to move forward. I will tell you, as I've always said to any council member that asks the question, will you still be engaged? I left for 3 years out of this city. I did no civic work. I took break for 3 years, and I will tell you, within about 3 months of being home, I was back on the Far South Columbus Area Commission, back engaged in the Scioto Civic Association, because that's just how much this city and these neighborhoods and these communities mean to me. And I will be engaged no matter if I'm selected or not for this opportunity. But thank you for putting me through to this point.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Anything for my colleagues? We're happy to have you back, and thank you for your continued engagement. It's truly appreciated. Thank you for stepping up and obviously being involved this evening as well. So you answered the question. My question, so I will go ahead and move on. Our next particular speaker tonight is Jibril Mohamed. Mr. Mohamed, thank you for coming in, and I look forward to your testimony.
Good evening, President Elizabeth Brown, Chairman Remy, Councilmember Tyson, Councilmember Brown, Councilmember Terrence. Thank you for hosting this and allowing me to present myself for this commission. I'm honored to be a finalist for the City of Columbus City Council Residential Districting Commission. When I first came to Columbus in 2005, I started working at the Community Refugee and Immigration Services as an employment counselor. There, I came to know about the employment challenges that people, especially new Americans and low-income people, faced. I enrolled in graduate school at the John Glenn College of Public Affairs at Ohio State, and I spent considerable amount of time identifying and analyzing community issues in Columbus, from conducting studies on the old Peachwald historic neighborhood to the Hilltop to the Morris Road corridor and other various upcoming areas of Columbus. Over the years, I worked to organize voters, register new citizens to vote, and encourage civic participation of new Americans in Columbus. I am happy that council members supported and participated in programs that I organized, including the Somali Civic Leadership Forum and the Somali Graduation Program, which gave scholarships to deserving young Somali and other immigrant students. I currently serve as a commissioner with the City of Columbus Community Relations Commission, where we fight for equal access to employment, housing, and accommodations for all residents of Columbus without discrimination. I also served on the Columbus School Board Facilities Task Force to listen to residents in all neighborhoods of Columbus and make recommendations on the school building consolidations based on community needs, building capacity, quality, and cost. I also initiated the New American Leadership Academy idea in a proposal to the Department of Neighborhoods, and right now that's the New American Leadership Academy at the city. I serve as a professor at the Ohio State University, and I'm currently engaged in a research project on the Linden neighborhood. And in the past, working with other researchers, I conducted comparative studies between Columbus and Minneapolis Somali communities. And we looked at why Somalis were not participating in civics and in public service in Columbus, and why were they doing that in Minnesota. And one of the things we identified was how the district maps were drawn in Minneapolis was different from Columbus. And I'm happy that we're moving towards that change right now. I'm a small business owner. I own a small real estate company that specializes in renovating and renting residential properties to low-income families. The question is, why do I want to really serve this commission? This commission has historical importance for me because it represents the progress that the city of Columbus is making towards inclusion and equal representation as it moves away from at-large to a ward system of representation. I want to thank the Columbus City Council and the mayor for leading the way, and I would appreciate the opportunity to bring to the table the voices of new Americans, particularly Columbus citizens of African origin who feel left out of public policy making processes. I think my participation in this process will motivate other Somalis and other immigrants to be part of the civic processes that take place in our city. I really thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. Appreciate the opportunity to hear from you this evening. Anything from my colleagues? All right. Well, appreciate you coming in. If for instance we didn't select you, would you continue to stay involved and be an advocate for the process?
I would definitely do that. Yes, Councilmember.
Thank you so much, and we wish you a good night. Be safe.
Thank you.
Next, I have Malik Moore on the list. Mr. Moore, how are you? Except on mute. He's still on mute. One more time. I saw it go off for a second. There we go.
Yeah. I said some very profound things during that moment. Good evening.
Thank you. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Good evening. Good evening. I want to thank you for creating this space tonight. Chairman Remy, I want to thank all of our council members, Councilmember Brown, Councilmember Tyson, Councilmember Dorrance, and Council President Pro Tem Brown as well. The thing I love most about my adopted home of Columbus, I moved here in 2007 from Philadelphia, is the ability to see a problem, and as quickly as you identify the problem, you can engage the people that would be a part of solving it. I think many of the people on this call are those problem solvers, and the city council members and their availability to us makes solving those problems possible as well. Council President, it's good to see you this evening. Thank you for creating this space as well. And so I think where I first fell in love was when I attended one of the community city council meetings. And I had a theory of change, and I was able to go to each of the city council members and lift up a voice of what I thought could be solutions to some of the problems I lived with. And I didn't feel at any moment that what I was saying was falling on deaf ears. I felt like there was a team of people that wanted to hear in what I was saying the possibility of a solution and helping me to lift up the ability to solve my own problem. That has become something that I've tried to embody as I meet people in the community, and I've spent a lot of time in the community. I've picked up trash all through Northland. I've picked up trash in Linden. I've volunteered throughout probably every neighborhood in Columbus. If I haven't picked up trash with you, I've probably planted trees with you, right? And I'm a proud resident now of the Hilltop, and I'm glad to say that I live and work in Hilltop. And next year, I want to be able to say that I live, work, and self-transport myself, meaning using my body to move myself to my job every day, and celebrate my community. And I know that there's so many others in Columbus that have the same sense of connectedness, the same sense of pride. And what I see the role of this commission being is, I heard someone say it earlier, to remind us of how democracy works, right? To empower the voices of the community and of the people. And so if we can have the representation we see here, the diversity of thought, the diversity of profession, age, religions, if we could come together in a spirit of service to others, I think that that becomes a contagious thing throughout our city. And I think there's more people that are connected to a sense of hope. Mr. McElroy said it better than I've ever said it, because so often we think that we're the voice of the voiceless, but really what we're doing is helping to lift up the voice of people who have so cogently said what it is that they need, but being able to do it in a way that might leverage community resources a little differently. I've had the experience of serving and representing folks that don't always look like me or speak like me. I was on the board of the BCCO, where I worked with our Bhutanese brothers and sisters and getting a voice in Columbus and helping those people to build the capacity to understand that this is indeed their community, that their neighbors that look different than them are indeed their neighbors. When I spent time serving in the Northland community at the YMCA, I got to witness what a connected community looked like through all of the civic associations that existed. And I got that sense of what it feels like to be welcomed and able to solve problems. And many times it's just listening and providing service and space to others. And so what I'm hopeful for in the formation of this commission is the continued amplification of what Columbus is. We're a proximal city where people have voice and where neighborhoods are connected and communities care. And so I've heard some very impressive things, and I'm inspired to even sit in a circle with folks that are on this call. And without question, if I'm not a finalist of the final five, I am going to be right next to whoever's on this commission, serving alongside of them and helping them to have victory, because the victory we're talking about is a victory that is going to be that my children celebrate. My father tells a story of being a Black vet from the Korean War in 1955 that came back to his redlined community. He couldn't live with the white best friend he developed a friendship with in the military. And so the neighborhood I lived in became the neighborhood that predicted the outcomes that would be my own. And what I see in this commission is the ability to break many of those things down, to create an interconnected Columbus, to steal a line from Shannon Hardin: if it's not for all, it's not for us, right? And so this commission is a great chance for Columbus to show up in the best ways that we show up, and representing the values that we all celebrate so often.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. We appreciate you coming in tonight and speaking to that. Any of my colleagues have any comments or questions for Mr. Moore? We thank you very much. I do want to recognize Council President Hardin and certainly allow him the opportunities to say hi. Yeah, good evening, Council President.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for holding this important hearing tonight as we and I apologize for all the applicants who I did not get to hear. I look forward to reviewing your testimony tonight, as well as even more of your specific applications and talking with my colleagues. One thing that I will say, and I will just pick up on really the sentiment that I think Mr. Malik Moore just shared, is that really what we are endeavoring on is building a city for the future. That is more connected, that is closer to, that is even more responsive to our residents. The former mayor used to say, a city that stays the same falls behind. We do not intend to fall behind in Columbus. We will evolve, we will continue to serve, and each one of you who have applied, every single one of you applied and have made it this far, have already shown your commitment to service to this community. And so my colleagues and I will have the hard task of whittling down to a smaller group. But just want to say thank you to all of our applicants, and certainly thank you to the chairman for his leadership over this last several months, and also the team that supports him in getting us through this process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council President. Certainly excited about this process. It's just been wonderful to hear so many diverse ideas and the thoughts of so many. So again, thank you, Mr. Moore. Appreciate it. And next up, we have Miss Eileen Neal. Good evening, Miss Neal. How are you? Yeah, we got you on mute still. That's the trickiest thing you probably will have to do all night.
You've been unmuted, Ms. Neal.
Yeah, and there you go.
Much. Thank you very much. Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you this evening. A little bit about my background. I've done this in a part 1 phase and a part 2 phase. My part 1 phase talks about what I bring to the table and explores my journey in public service. So the first thing that I would say that I was reared on the hilltop and basically established my introduction to civic engagement during that time. What I have learned through this journey is that I have a desire to serve, and I accept the responsibility that goes with serving. A background that reflects service and commitment to communities. I strive to provide integrity and purpose, doing the right thing even though others may disagree. I have a grounded core value which guided me into public service. Since I was 18, I was involved in civic engagement while growing up on the hilltop. I integrated what was called, at that time, Ohio National Bank. We know it now today as PNC Bank. So during that process, I learned a lot. I learned the good, the bad, as well as the ugly. And I survived. I survived that, and it formulated my core value for becoming involved with civic engagement, and how it's sometimes not always about you. It is about the bigger picture. Who are you helping when you step out of yourself and engage your energy toward the lives of other people? The thing that I clearly understand as a result of being in community service is the dynamics of people. I call it people dynamics that occur through the process of change. The effects of change and how people interpret that change, whether it is a positive or a negative impact in their opinion. In the course of this process, I have learned the ability to listen. I base all conversations with open dialogue and participation from community members. I fully believe that we must be transparent, we must be open, and we must be viewed as developing a credible product that residents can, 1, visualize themselves in, and 2, understanding that it is a better place for the city. One of the things that I strive for is on this coin where it says E pluribus unum, out of many one. Striving toward understanding and valuing others to achieve a common objective together. The other thing that I rely upon when meetings get contentious, laughter. We have to understand that during difficult times, laughter eases tension and shows and allows us a moment of reflection and deliberation. That's what I have learned through this journey called civic engagement. Now, why do I want to serve on the commission? I have an understanding of the city governance process through serving on the Far South Area Commission, civic engagement, and other community task force assignments. I'm aware of grassroots issues that impact residents' daily lives, and this includes wanting additional voice within the city government. I would advocate for all communities in this role. I think we have a responsibility as citizens to serve when there is a need. At this time in our country and in the city, it is time for all hands to be on deck. Everyone has a right to an opinion, and everyone is entitled to a fair and open process as we pursue the mapping, the remapping for the city of Columbus. This issue is part of the voting rights and representation discussion. This is an ongoing discussion, not only in the city of Columbus, but we see it impacting us on a national level in perhaps a different form. I welcome the opportunity to be part of the process to determine that all voting segments will be represented from 7 to 9 council members. I close by saying change starts here. It starts with me, and I accept my role and my responsibility in representing communities within the city of Columbus. I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ms. Neal. We appreciate you coming in tonight and speaking on your qualifications and certainly how you would serve in this role. Anything from my colleagues? All right. Would ask you the same question. Would you be willing to serve if you weren't selected and be an advocate for this process?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's something that I take very seriously, and it's something that I will share with our commissioners, and I'm sure they're aware of it, but to make sure that we get the message out to community that this is occurring. Sometimes what happens, communities don't always know, and they always feel left behind because they say, well, we never knew that. So I kind of view that as my role, is to ensure that those that I'm around, that we spread that message.
Yeah, it's a constant battle. I know, sitting in your shoes at one point in time, I remember very well how hard it was sometimes to get the word out, and so appreciate your time and thank you for coming in and talking more. So our next speaker this evening is Mr. Dave Paul. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Remy. I appreciate your welcoming me to the floor. Thank you for your time and that of President Hardin and President Pro Tem Brown, Council Members Brown, Dorrance, and Tyson. I've had the pleasure of working with many of the council members at various times over the years. And I must say, as I listened to the other applicants tonight, the other finalists, I'm personally humbled, I'm impressed, I'm inspired, and I'm frankly excited for the work of this commission because you have a tough job ahead of you in selecting, I think, the final group, but you've got some fantastic material to select from here. Let me talk just a little bit about my background and then perhaps why perhaps it's relevant to this process. I moved to Central Ohio in 1986 and to the Northland area of Columbus in 2002. Became involved with the Northland Community Council, an organization that I've been involved with now for about 17 years. Including 6 years as president and 9 years as development committee chair. I've also been involved with the Senior Services Roundtable of Columbus and Franklin County, an organization I serve. Its chair is Fran Ryan, and the Franklin County Consortium for Good Government. And I'd like to thank, by the way, Mr. Cabot for the shout out. Yes, I enjoyed working with Mr. Cabot on that body for some time. And the consortium's mission was to organize nonpartisan candidate events throughout Central Ohio, and particularly in Columbus and Franklin County. And so in that context, I was involved with a nonpartisan effort to help ensure that candidates for various public offices had the opportunity to be heard, to make their cases, throughout the city in accessible locations and so forth. So I mention that because it is relevant, I think, to what we're talking about tonight. I also served as a member of the Recreation and Parks Commission of the city for 10 years and have served on the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission's Community Advisory Committee. So a rather diverse portfolio of community service, but I must say that I'll be candid, I'm an older white man. I have enjoyed certain privileges. I recognize that perhaps some other members of the group tonight have not personally experienced. and I may not be able to relate firsthand some of the experiences that they've described. I'm listening, and I'm learning to listen, and I think that's an important requirement at this point in time. I think we've reached a point in time where that's an important consideration. During my tenure as president of the Northland Community Council, I had a focus on the neighborhoods of Northland, one of the larger areas of the city at 25 square miles, and a very diverse area. But I also focused on connecting Northland with other parts of the city and working with my counterparts. So one of the things that I would like to describe as a hallmark of my work at the Northland Community Council was keeping us connected as a community, as a city, basically establishing bridges between neighborhoods. I think that's part of the task that we're talking about doing here, and extending that process to how we elect our council members. It's a profound change. It will be an historic change. And it will require great care, I think, because as a number of finalists have already mentioned, it can be done badly. It could be done without consideration for communities of interest, as well as communities of geography. It could be done in such a way to actually antagonize or accentuate some of the differences that have already existed historically in our communities. So it is something that requires attention to detail. I think that's something I could bring to the mission. I'm, again, honored and inspired to be considered a finalist, especially given the quality of the folks I've been hearing tonight. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about this with you tonight.
Thank you very much, Mr. Paul. Appreciate you coming down and speaking this evening to all of us. Anything from my council colleagues this evening? All right, seeing none, I just want to ask the same question I've been asking. If you'd be willing to stay engaged and be an advocate for the process if you were not selected.
I absolutely would, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much, and thanks for putting your name in the hat. We know you've got a long history of contributing, and so appreciate you stepping up once again.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. J.M. Rayburn. Welcome.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate that. And good evening, members of City Council, the Columbus community, and the other finalists. It's great to be here this evening. You know, to be frank with you, I have never served on a redistricting commission. So I looked up what exactly this is. And through a lot of research, I came to find there's about 3 guiding principles that I think are important for this to be successful. The first one is to foster transparency and public input. Everyone has said that, we all get it, but it has to be at the top of the list. The second thing is to adhere to a process and the criteria of the redistricting. You know, I am a city planner and I'm also a realtor. I'm a city planner for the city of Dublin. Process is everything. We have to make sure that we follow it and we do good by the applicant and also by the city's interests. The third point that can be really, that I should say is important for this process is to expand the geographic diversity of representation on city council. I know that's important as part of the outline of this districting, but it's worth noting. I do have prior service or experience, I should say, on commissions for the city. I've served on the Victorian Village Commission for a year, and then I moved to 5th by Northwest, and guess what? I served on the 5th by Northwest Area Commission, a special area commission. I was there for 2 years, started as secretary, ended as vice chair, was really going for that chair position, but then guess what? I moved to Northwest Columbus around Bethel Road and Kenny. I love it. I love the diversity and I love the area of town I'm in. Currently, I do still hold experience when it comes to commissions and boards. Thinking about Dublin, I do serve as staff support for the Dublin Community Task Force, which is looking at diversity, equity, inclusion in that community. It's very important conversations. On top of that, I serve as the LGBTQ plus liaison to the Dublin City Manager. I serve on the CODA's advisory panel and then a variety of working groups and committees with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. I want to go back to my experience as an urban planner to why I think it'd be a good fit for this commission. I said I said process is very important. And adhering to the code and regulations and guidelines is something that is essential to my day-to-day job. I'm a generalist as an urban planner, which means I know the basics of everything, but I'm not necessarily an expert in a lot of fields. As a city planner, I'm a trained problem solver, and we have to adhere to an agreed upon process, and we need public input in order to be taken seriously with any plans that we put forward. And I think that's really important as we think about a community-driven solution to this redistricting commission. When we're not solving problems, we help translate a community's vision into action, and we help position neighborhoods for success in the future. I think that's really important to think about as we go down this path. As part of being a city planner and as being a public servant, I have to take regular ethics training, and I have to follow the law, which is good to know when we're thinking about this redistricting commission. As a realtor with RE/MAX, I have knowledge and awareness of many Columbus neighborhoods. I am also licensed, which means I have to take, as Mr. Chair knows, continuing education classes in ethics, law, and fair housing, which is very important to be a realtor. I consider myself diplomatic, I work well with others, and I have necessary people skills to make this work. So in closing, I want to extend my appreciation to City Council to say thank you for considering my application to the Council Residential Districting Commission. I am ready to serve, I'm ready to work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the testimony this evening. Anything from my colleagues? And so again, if you aren't selected, are you willing to step up and be an advocate for the process and get involved in other ways?
Of course I'm gonna say yes, and Mr. Chair, you know I'm gonna say yes, but I wanna add something more to differentiate myself from the other amazing finalists. I work for a proud local democracy, being Dublin, and that is part of who I am. I love serving the democratic cause. I wanted to put something into action, so I started a citizen voter guide for Dublin Scioto high school students. And this was an idea, I will be honest, I stole from Detroit. They give birthday kits on 18th birthdays of people, they give them kits for voting, registering to vote, and getting active. And I was inspired by that, and I wanted to bring that to Dublin. So the point is, I'm always looking for opportunities to include people in the process, and I do hold the democratic process to be very important to me and something I want to continue championing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rayburn. I appreciate you coming in this evening and appreciate the expounded answer. Certainly look forward to deliberating over all this testimony, and so appreciate your time. Our next speaker is Mr. Christopher Weish. Welcome. It's great to see you, and look forward to your testimony.
Thank you. President Hardin, Pro Tem Brown, Chair Ramey, members of the council. I want to thank you for this opportunity to discuss my interest in serving on the Council Residential Districting Commission. As many have already said, it is truly an honor to be considered as one of the finalists. I've enjoyed the opportunity to hear from my fellow residents and experience the excitement others have to serve our city. I've had the pleasure of working with many of them in my personal and professional life, and I'm positive any one of them would make an amazing commission member. And whether I'm selected or not, I would look forward to working with them. I'm interested in serving on this commission for 3 reasons. First, Columbus is my adopted home. I made the conscious effort to move here because I see us as the next great American city, one that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. To keep us on that path, it requires a council that reflects those ideals, a council that is responsive to its residents, that can disagree at times, yet still seek to build consensus. So the proper establishment of these districts is critical. Having spent some time working with other councils across the state, I've seen firsthand the pros and cons of having district representation. Increased accountability for council is a good thing. However, it can make consensus building challenging. Add in personalities, politics, and external factors, and ill-formed districts could threaten the progress made in positioning Columbus for the future. This commission has the power to combat them. Second, all 3 of my children were born here in Columbus. I know that the decisions that are made today will have a profound effect on the lives of my family as well as others. So I want to ensure that this process is done right for our families. As a husband, father, small business owner, professional, and resident, I understand the importance of local government and its impacts on businesses, schools, communities, and jobs. And when you add in gridlock in DC and a lack of progressive values at the State House, residents have come to depend on our local governments to hold the line. And lastly, I want to represent the concerns of my neighbors. I've been fortunate. The networks I've established while building my life in Columbus have given me the opportunity to speak directly to various council members and their staffers regarding a variety of issues, including the need for district representation. However, due to circumstance or perception, sadly, many of my neighbors have not felt invited to exercise that same opportunity. I've lived on the hilltop and currently live on the northwest end of Columbus. Both areas are charming in their own way, yet the challenges they face are entirely different. However, a common thread between both communities is the thinking that the City of Columbus government is not invested in their neighborhood. Sadly, this mindset can be pervasive throughout our city. It's one of the reasons residents have been calling for change and transparency. This proposed system recognizes the importance of having a local trusted person from the neighborhood serving as their representative. There is immense value in having access to your representative in government, and seeing their direct connection to your community forces that accountability and transparency that residents have been calling for. I want to thank you all again for giving me this opportunity. I want to give a big shout out to all the residents who made it to the end of the alphabet, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weiss. We appreciate it. Anything from my colleagues this evening? I do have a question. Where are you a transplant from? I'm just curious.
Boston. Yeah, Boston native.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. Same question to you, Mr. Weiss. If you aren't selected, are you willing to stay involved and be an advocate for the process?
Yeah, definitely. I'll take it a step further and say, I have the pleasure of serving on another number of boards and organizations, community organizations. Would love the opportunity to do a roadshow kind of leading up. As had already been said by other finalists, there's sometimes this perception that things are happening in the city and people aren't made aware of. So if there are ways in which we can build that awareness leading up to the actual rollout in the beginning of the commission, I want to do my part to support it as much as possible.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that insight, and thank you for stepping up and putting yourself out there. Our final speaker this evening is one that had some technological issues earlier, and unfortunately we don't have video of him, but certainly we welcome his testimony via the telephone. And so it's Mr. Herb Asher. Professor, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Great. Welcome.
Well, okay. Okay, thank you. And again, I apologize for my technological incompetence, but let me also thank you, the council members, for this opportunity. Let me just say a little bit about myself first. I moved to Columbus in 1970 when I joined the faculty at Ohio State University, and I've been in Columbus with a 12-year exception living in Arlington and Grandview Heights, but then came back to Columbus. I've lived in 5 different areas of Columbus. Love Columbus. It's just a wonderful community. At the university, I taught courses on campaigns and elections, Ohio politics, legislative politics, statistics, and I also started working for university presidents and was in charge of government relations for the university, and also was an advisor to 5 presidents. I've been active in a variety of community organizations, some independent of the university, some linked to the university. And there was a time period when I was also very involved on my own time in council elections, especially when Pat Logsdon was such an active member of our community. And I've also been very involved in efforts to remedy problems of redistricting and gerrymandering, particularly at the national and the state levels. And was actually involved in the 2005 campaign where we got some issues on the ballot, and we were clobbered, absolutely clobbered. So I bring a lot of expertise, I think, and certainly interest in the whole issue of redistricting. And talking about the Columbus redistricting, and listening to the previous speakers, their enthusiasm, their inspiration, their motivation is truly wonderful. And let me now, though, say that this task of drawing 9 districts in a city that I think when the final census data are out, will have us, close to 1 million, over 900,000? Not sure about that, but that means we're going to have 9 districts that will have approximately 100,000 apiece. And the charter language is very specific about equal size in the district, and also has a number of other really important criteria in there. And the only reason I mention that is that we all have such hope that this new system will provide representation for more groups, more diverse groups. And I think it's very important that whatever we come up with, we do it in the most public and transparent way. And again, the charter language calls for that, but I'm just reinforcing that because I am confident, I'm an optimist, but I'm also confident that when we're done and we see that we have districts of about 100,000, there will be many neighborhoods who will say, well, why are we with these other neighborhoods? We have so many wonderful neighborhoods in Columbus, and neighborhoods can be as small as 5,000 people. So I think it's going to be very, very important that we welcome as much citizen input, and we go beyond what the charter really requires us to do, and we actually have websites. And I would hope that we could actually put online the raw data that would be used to actually be building these districts, so that if any citizens want to, in fact, submit a proposal, they could do so at the same time that the commission is meeting. Because I think we're going to have very high expectations from our citizenry about this. And I think then when they finally see the maps, they'll say, well, we're in with a lot of other groups, and some of them are far away from us. And how did this happen? And we need to be able to say, here is the process. It was a very open process. It really was an iterative process, and in so doing, really try to address any kinds of process concerns, because I'm confident, as good a job as we do, and we'll do a very good job, at the end of the process, there will still be people asking, why am I here and not there? Or why are these groups? Or why is the boundary here and not there? So, again, I think openness and transparency will really go a long way in convincing and helping citizens understand that this really was a true and fair and equitable process. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Appreciate that. Any of my colleagues have anything for Professor Asher this evening? All right, and same question to you as it relates to staying involved and being an advocate for the process.
Yeah. You can't keep me out of it, so I'll be happy to. Sure.
Thank you, sir. Certainly appreciate that. Let's see here. That's it. We've made it through. I will ask if my colleagues have any final comments they'd like to make before we get through the rest of the hearing. And Councilmember Brown, there you go.
Thank you, Chair. I guess, again, to all the individuals who participated this evening, to say thank you again. It is appreciated. We recognize your engagement. This is a monumental circumstance. It is going to be historical in the sense of changing the way things are done in the city of Columbus. And the willingness on the part of all of you is, again, very, very appreciated. And thank you for your engagement.
Thank you, Council Member. Certainly concur. Well, I would just want to thank you to each of our 15 finalists for spending this time with us this evening. The job of our Council Residential Districting Commission will be rewarding, and it will take time and focus from our commissioners to complete this task by the end of the year. In advance, on behalf of my colleagues and I, we thank you for stepping up to serve the Columbus community in this way. I want to thank Angela Burks, Mark Carter, and our CTV team for assisting with our technology needs this evening and connecting us with the community. I would also like to thank and recognize Nia Walters, a member of our Legislative Research Office, for her hard work and expertise during this districting process, as this is the first time the City of Columbus will draw council districts. Special thank you to my team, Lucy Frank and Jeffrey Carter, Zach Davison from Council President Hardin's office, our communications team, Lee Cole and David Miller. David Miller had a little accident the other day, so I want to throw a shout out that we hope he gets well soon. And Aaron Gibbons from Community Engagement for helping through this districting process as well. Lastly, I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us. If you have any questions or would like to learn more about the CRDC, please visit www.columbus.gov/districting commission. That is all we have for this evening, and I want to wish everyone a safe and hopefully warm evening. Thank you again, Columbus. Good evening.
Thank you.